Good evening, it's Jules Wyman here. I believe I might be a minute or so early. I don't know why I looked at that clock when there is that great thing right behind me. So how are you this evening? I'm just having a quick fiddle because trying to work out whether the very messy screen is on my camera or on the screen. So good evening for those of you that are joining, and Caroline has jumped straight in there. Good evening, Caroline, with saying hello. If you are joining for the first time, then do jump in and say hi. It'd be fantastic to hear from you. And I am just going to do something whilst I remember, which is actually remember to share it. I get excited about doing these. Call me weird. It's been said before, but I get excited about being able to share some information. Hi Laura. Share some information that potentially could make a difference or plant a seed or help somebody out there, whether they're watching it live. Good evening, Shelley. There's a love heart as well. Thank you very much, my lovely. And it's really, that's why I get excited about it. And I've had, after last week's, right post. See, doing two things at once doesn't always work. Come and join the conversation. And in 2 minutes, not even 2 minutes, now you will have my full attention, because I do get so excited. And after last week, in fact, the last 2, possibly 3 weeks, being totally honest, is that I have had quite often people are emailing me after these sessions, which is really lovely, to let me know what they've taken from it, because sometimes maybe I finished too quickly and haven't given people enough time to type, or and they haven't yet felt confident enough to say hello and type in, as I'm going to encourage those of you who are just joining to do. And or they've just had a revelation the following day, and people have emailed me or messaged me on here. And that's the purpose of these sessions. It's to give you an opportunity to access some of the information that I've learned over the last 12 plus years, and plant seeds, help you make a slight difference, give you the opportunity to maybe look at yourself in a different way, maybe look at your life in a different way, and to ask any questions. That is the purpose of this. And I know that there are a number of you, especially the 3 lovely ladies who have already said hello, that do watch regularly. Hi Joanne, you're very welcome. I'm glad that you love these live sessions, or live these love sessions, as I probably would have typed, because I'm great with my typos. Welcome Joanne. I've lost my train of thought now. Anyway, the purpose of them, what I set out to do is, yes, of course it's about marketing my business. Yes, of course it's about letting you guys know what it is that I do as a coach, as a speaker, and potentially what that can offer. But for me, the best way I think of being able to do that is by showing you, by giving you the opportunity to ask questions or share your thoughts, your insights, the challenges that you're going through. And that gives me an opportunity to, even if I recommend a book or a course or a teacher or a video, or share a tool or a different perspective that has made a difference for you, or could make a difference for you, then that is the purpose behind this. So I am just going to check that this is all working okay. The main reason, even though I've got the people clicking in, is I could see the numbers shoot up and then drop off very quickly, which sometimes can mean that the internet is playing up. But it looks to be working okay, so I'm going to turn that off so I don't get distracted by looking at my own face. Otherwise I'm going to be in 2 places, which is a bit weird. Cheers. If you're not in the UK, I hope that you are somewhere warm. It's cold here in the UK, or it is where I am. York is cold today. It's like somebody got the thermometer and just went and turned it down, which seems to happen sort of like mid to late November. The last few years, it goes from being kind of quite mild to then it's gone cold. There's none of that intermediate. So I'm hugging my tea this evening because I haven't quite warmed up since I've come home. So remember, if you've not watched these before, that the please don't wait to be invited to interact. If you have a question, if you have an insight, a light bulb moment, if you're not sure what I'm talking about, please don't wait for me to check in with you. Please let me know what's going on for you so that I can kind of pick up and do my best to be able to support and maybe even celebrate with you if you have that light bulb moment. Remember that you can share this video. You can share that to your own page. You can do it by, as you would do with anything else on Facebook really, clicking the share, or you can of course tag people in it if you suddenly, as we go through the topic, you start to go, hang on a second, this would really appeal to so-and-so, or they could do with listening to this. And if you want to do that in a subtle way because you're not sure if the other person would be open to listening to it, but you know that they are somebody who gets stressed and worked up, then the best way to be able to do that is share it to your own page, because then it's not pointed at them. But equally, if you've got somebody who has been speaking to you lately about stress and you think, hang on a second, they could really deal with this, then tag them in this. As somebody has just done, but I didn't know who it was, as things are making sense, or if you like them, or if you like the conversation in any way, shape or form, feel free to go crazy with the thumbs and with the hearts at any point. It does from Facebook's algorithms even. By doing that, it also helps the video reach more people. So if you're not comfortable with sharing it to your own page, but you want to do your bit by helping me reach more people, then I was going to say thumb away, and as I heard that in my head, I was like, that sounds wrong, but you know what I mean, like away and do the hearts and all of that malarkey. I think that's all kind of like the housekeeping and all of that sort of thing. You may not be aware, by the way, that there is a time delay between me saying this. There is roughly somewhere between 5, 10, 15 minute seconds even time delay. So sometimes if you might do those, it might take a while before they pop up on my screen, or I know that if I give you an instruction such as let me know these are working, it takes a while for you to hear that, and then the thumbs will go bouncing across the screen, if that makes sense. So yeah, I think that's all of the housekeeping for this evening so far. So, stress. It's a word that I have heard. Do you know, it's interesting, I've heard it a lot this year, and I've heard it a lot this year in relation to me. And I don't know if you've experienced this, but I've had, as you may or may not know, I've had one of my best friends died this year. I've moved house this year. I've had family members who have been very ill this year. What's been interesting is the amount of people that have said to me, oh, you must be stressed. You must be really stressed. And it's not always a word that I've engaged with. So I find that interesting. The other thing that I've also found interesting is that then when I've really looked into this a lot more, both for myself and for clients, is that there's a whole raft of symptoms that are associated with stress, such as loss of memory. I was going to do a gag there about forgetting what I was going to say, but my jokes aren't funny apparently. That's what somebody said to me the other day. So loss of memory, could be snapping at other people, impatience with others. It might be that you're tired, finding yourself being tired quite a lot. You could have some physical symptoms such as headaches, or it might even be something like insomnia. And it's interesting, or just general tiredness. And it's interesting because these could be symptoms of something that's going on internally for you that you're stressing over. So it's worth being mindful that stress can show up in different ways. And also it's worth being mindful that what might stress you out might not stress somebody else out. So be very careful. Like when I was moving house, for example, so many people said to me, oh, you must be so stressed. It's the most stressful thing to do. And sometimes I found myself going, yeah, I am. And partway through it, I was like, why am I saying that? Because I'm not stressed at all. But it felt like the socially acceptable thing to do. So be careful on both sides of that. Be careful not to assume that somebody else must be stressed because they might be displaying these symptoms, or because if you were in their situation, you might experience what you would class as stress. But equally, be careful of not taking somebody else's on board. If you start to, if you're doing something like going through a breakup or heading towards Christmas, because, you know, let's face it, the season to be jolly and all of that malarkey is deemed as being stressful, moving house, etc., etc. So be very mindful for yourself with regards to that. I hope, does that make sense? Is not take on board what other people assume are stress, and not to take that on board for yourself as well. Well, there's one lone thumb, so it's making sense to somebody. So I would also be very clear for yourself as to what you perceive stress is. So I know for me, when other people were telling me, because all these events that were happening in my life is you must be stressed, is that I wasn't experiencing some of those other things, so I wasn't necessarily connecting with that. But what I was noticing is that I wasn't thinking clearly sometimes. So sometimes I would get that, not necessarily forgetfulness, but kind of like fogginess, and not really and that was kind of like what was going on in my head. It wasn't necessarily how I was displaying outside. So it's about being really clear for yourself what's going on, and therefore could that be related to stress. There is, as ever with these things, it's a huge topic. So I want to make sure that I give you something practical that you can take away and use. In fact, I've as ever, it's usually 3. I've broken it down into 3 things that I think can be helpful and simple, but not necessarily easy to apply things that you can use, that you can really use. Whether you use all 3 or whether you use 1, it doesn't matter. But something practicable that you can apply straight away. They're not, as I say, they're simple, but they're not necessarily easy. So, the first thing to help yourself, and I know that this has a knock-on effect with other people, and I've definitely spoken about this in various other ways, in other confidence conversations, but tone down your language. Tone down your language. Now, what I mean by that is we have become quite hooked and addicted to dramatizing language, dramatizing it and making things very, very and really, really and huge and massive, and it was traumatic, it was a nightmare, it was horrendous. And we use this exaggerated dramatic language, and quite often what we don't realize is that by languaging things in that way, it gives our brain an instruction. Our brain is listening to and following what we are saying and how we are dialoguing it. So if I'm talking about something being it's going to be horrendous. It's going to be horrendous. I've got to go on the M62 tomorrow, and it's going to be horrendous. Then my brain's already gearing me up for that. And horrendous is a big word. I don't just mean in the number of letters, but the something that is horrendous. A volcanic explosion can be horrendous, or a plane crash can be horrendous, or things like that need or require more of the dramatic language. Our everyday lives tend not to really require that dramatic language, and yet because of social media, because of media, because of the way that we kind of talk about things, we escalate it with our language. So it's really important to tone it down. Now, that doesn't mean go to the other end of the extreme. There's lots of thumbs going across, so I'm assuming this is making sense. It doesn't mean go to the other end of the of the extremes and just kind of go, oh, it's fine, everything's fine, and it'll be okay, it's fine, because that's not helpful either. So it's being mindful of either end of the pendulum, and making sure you're not going to either one of those extremes, and practicing the art of talking in a cleaner way and a more and a truer way, because the more that we can do that and dialogue things like that, it's going to help us recognize what we can deal with, what we might need, where we might need support, rather than it being something that's really huge, or kind of ignoring it, trying to pretend it's going to go away. That either one of those isn't helpful, but by being truthful with it, it's going to give you the opportunity to be able to de-escalate it. I was talking to a client there, I just remembered that's why I went off on my mind. I was talking to a client the other day, and he was describing things as, that it was massive and it's got this horrendous thing. It wasn't horrendous, traumatic was the word he used. Thing that needs to be done, and all this, and it's just a nightmare. It's another word that gets used a lot. Absolute nightmare at the moment. It's completely going to be hell. I know it is. And when I was replaying back, he was like, "Oh, I'm being a bit of a drama queen, aren't I, really?" And I said, "Well, yeah, because you're exaggerating it to such a degree." And we kind of put the situation through a sieve, and left all of the dramatic, exaggerated language in the sieve, and then looked at the situation on the other side. And he said it's like it's gone from DEFCON 5 to it just being a problem that needs to be sorted. And he said, and I said, what happens when you take away that exaggerated language, that dramatic language? And he said, well, the thing becomes manageable, or at least I can see what I can do and what needs to be done. Does that make sense? Let me know if that makes sense. And I want to reiterate that with something like that, it's not easy always to hear our own language. So if you have somebody that is supportive in your life, whether it be, it makes sense to at least one person, that's great. That it's, if you've got somebody who is supportive, be that a significant other, a sibling, a friend, a work colleague, whatever, ask them to help you. Become a team working together, and just listen out for that dramatic language, and start to carefully, kindly, politely challenge each other, and just say, well, is it true? Is it an absolute nightmare, or is it a pain that something needs to be sorted out, or whatever it may be, and work with somebody else. It is a challenge to hear it for yourself. I'm just flagging that one up. As I said, this stuff is simple. It's not easy. So the second thing to help you lower your stress is to start to really recognize what your body needs. Now, if I'd have been organised, I could have pulled this up earlier, but I obviously wasn't organised. So I posted a picture today. I've got this lovely book that somebody bought me for Christmas last year, or it might have been my birthday, I can't remember. And this quote was for today. And the quote is, "We humans have lost the wisdom of genuinely resting and relaxing. We worry too much. We don't allow our bodies to heal, and we don't allow our minds and hearts to heal." And I saw that this morning, and I'd already written out what I was going to do today, and I was like, oh wow, this totally links in. Caroline says, very true, and understand that. Thanks. You're welcome, Joanne. So I think that's something that is so important for us to remember, is what does my body need? Because if my body is stressed, or if my brain is stressing, if I'm stressing in that sense, and then my body gets stressed, then my body's going to need nourishment. It's going to need some taking care. So am I getting enough rest? Am I getting enough sleep? Am I nurturing my body in a way that is helpful? So if you're on the go the whole time, it might be that you need to sit still and have some, even just 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes worth of stillness. If you're somebody that is sat a lot, does your body need to just go and move in a way that it enjoys moving? That could be running, cycling. For me, every time it will be dancing. Any opportunity to dance, and I'm there. or even just going for a nice walk. It doesn't have to be a long walk. It could be around the block, or if you can't get out, it could be up and down the stairs, or doing a few laps of your living room. What is it that's going to give your body that nourishment? Because it's so many people will say, oh, I just need a holiday. I just need a holiday. That's all I need. If I've got a holiday. But actually, quite often, it's not just the physical moving out of the environment that enables us to de-stress. It's because our bodies are moving at a different pace. They're moving at a different pace, a different way of being. And because we're doing that, it gives us, the body, the opportunity to de-stress and relax even more. So the first thing is verbal. Listen, Andy also in here as well. So listen to your dialogue and bring it down to clean dialogue. Remove the drama, remove the exaggeration. The second thing is about body nourishment, making sure that you're moving your body, and even taking care of your body. Are you giving your body the nutrition that it needs? So often our bodies become stressed because they haven't got the nutritional value. They may be having food. I so didn't get this years ago when I was stuffing my face of McDonald's and Burger King every day, and pints of Guinness, and smoking cigarettes and whatever else I was smoking at the time. What I didn't get is that I couldn't understand why I was always so hungry. So I would just eat more crisps and drink more beer and blah, 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 blah. And what I didn't realise then, because I wasn't educated in that way to understand it, is that I may have been putting calories in, but I wasn't putting any nutrition, or very low nutrition in. So my body was malnourished, really, which is why I was bigger, because my body was holding on. It's like, keep hold of this stuff just in case we don't get any more. We need some kind of nourishment. So I wasn't nourishing my body. So my body was probably on edge pretty much all the time and wired all the time because it wasn't getting the nourishment that it needed. So there are so many different ways, and I'm not going to be, I don't mean to sound pious or anything like that with this stuff, but it is about you checking in with your body and being honest with your body and what you need and what it needs in order to be able to lower that stress. So that you can, it's simple things like, if you've had a bath or a shower, taking an extra 3 to 5 minutes and maybe nourishing your body, excuse me, is taking the time to put moisturiser or body lotion, whatever it may be, caringly, rather than kind of just get it done and get out as quick as possible. Or it might be taking the time to blow dry your hair. Or it could just be sitting outside and getting some fresh air. There are so many different ways to get that nourishment for your body. So make sure that you take the time to do that in order to help you lower any stress in any way, shape or form. And it doesn't need to be, I need to take 2 hours off to go and do such and such. Even 5 minutes walking every day, or even 5 minutes sitting and meditating, or listening to your favourite, most beautiful, relaxing piece of music could help de-stress. So it's important to recognise that you have the opportunity and you have the knowledge, believe it or not, the body knowledge to be able to do that. So does that make sense? And whilst I grab another swig of my tea, what would be the one way that your body could be nourished today? What would be something that your body craves, whether it might be an early night and so therefore some more sleep? What is it? Just type below just that one thing. You don't have to go into massive detail. Go for a walk, meditate, have a nice bath. What would be that one thing for you this evening? Shelley says makes perfect sense. So whilst you're typing that out, the last one that I want to offer to you is one that we definitely sleep, Laura. Yeah. Do you know, it's amazing the badge of honour that so many people have about, I can get by in 5 hours sleep. When in actual fact, our bodies could have, or might need so much more. I am convinced that I was a bear in a former life or something else that used to hibernate, because at this time of year in the UK, I could go to bed easily at 4 o'clock. Easily, because it's dark. So I could snuggle up. I don't. I have been known to sometimes. But if that's what my body needs, then it's about listening to that and giving it that rest and good quality sleep. Which also might mean being aware of not drinking anything like alcohol or caffeine. Excuse me, I rushed my dinner. But as you lead up to bedtime, and making sure you're away from electronic devices, for example. Good Lord. Making sure you're away from electronic devices so that you are getting the opportunity to get ready to go to sleep. So yeah, go get a good night's sleep tonight, Laura. And Shelley, yoga. Yeah, sometimes yoga, Pilates, Tai Chi, Qigong to a certain degree. All of those kinds of things can really help move your body in a way that is helpful and can help to de-stress things. So there's two things, your language and your body. The final thing, and I've just noticed what I've done without even realising it, which is very interesting. So the final thing, walking. Yeah, I love the piece. Yeah, I get that, Joanne. I understand that. I went for a lovely walk this weekend for exactly that reason. So the final thing is about where are you focusing, or rather what are you focusing on? Because if you're focusing on what you can't do, what you haven't done, what you should be doing or shouldn't have done, etc., then my assumption is that's potentially going to spiral into a discomfort and potential stress. So it's about focusing on what you can do in its simplest form. And I think there is no better way, rather than me trying to reinvent the wheel, there's no better way than sharing with you, if you haven't heard it before, the Serenity Prayer. So the Serenity Prayer, if you aren't a lover of the word God, then replace it with anything else that you would like. Universe, the divine, creator, life, your own name if you want to. That's not the purpose of this prayer. The purpose of the prayer is the rest of the words. So I'm going to read it to you. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. I read that again. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And to me, that is one of the best ways to lower stress. Is print this. But if you put Serenity Prayer into Google, there are beautiful images that people have put this prayer onto. And as I say, if the God word doesn't resonate with you, that's absolutely fine. Remove that out. You could ask it of yourself. I could say, Jules, grant me the serenity. I could talk to myself in relationship of that. But the point with it is recognizing you can only change what you can change, and the rest there's no point in holding on to, because you can't do anything about it. But the key is having that wisdom to know the difference between those two things. So they, for me, are three simple, helpful, I trust, ways to help you lower your stress. So firstly, listen to your language, both internally and externally, and degrade it. That sounded wrong. Scale it down, remove the exaggeration, remove the dramatization with it all. Keep it clean, keep it simple. And the second thing is nourish your body. Nourish your body in a way that is going to be resourceful and nurturing, and everybody's body needs something different. Going for a run, for example, I know could name at least 4 people off the top of my head that for them that would be their ideal way of getting things moving and relaxing for their body. That is not my way at all. Crank on some tunes, let me have a boogie round. That's my way, but that may not be theirs. So it's important to move your body in a way that's right for you. And if you're not sure what that is, play around with a few things until you find, okay, is it going for a run? Is it going cycling? Is it going for a swim? Is it going for a walk? Is it doing yoga? Is it Tai Chi? play around, have a tester of all these different things until you go, that's the one. Oh, yeah, that's exactly the one for me. And that will help you. And then the final thing is the serenity prayer in a nutshell, is what are you focusing on? Focus on the things that you can change, accept the things that you can't, and have the wisdom to know the difference between the two. And those 3 simple ways are ways that you can lower your stress no matter what you perceive that stressful situation to be. It really can make a difference. And I will repeat again, this stuff may not be easy. It is simple. It's not necessarily easy to apply. But when you do put the practice in, when you are diligent, it can make a big difference in your life. So what is your one takeaway from this evening? Or do you have a question? Is there anything at all that else that I can help you with before we round up this evening? Caroline says you do affirmations daily. One of the things I would be mindful with affirmations, Caroline, is make sure that they're truthful. So sometimes with affirmations we can say things, they can be encouraged to say things like, I am amazing, I rock, I'm the best, all of that kind of stuff. And even one of the most common ones is, I love myself. Well, so many people don't, and so many people don't even know how to be loving to themselves. So when I say be truthful with your affirmations, make sure that they are true. So an affirmation would be, for me, for example, in that context, I am learning to love myself. And that's a far more truthful way of doing your affirmations. If they're working, that's ace. So is there anything else that you would like to add, question, ask about this evening? And if there is anybody typing, I'll give you the opportunity to finish off whilst I remind you that if you have a particular question, thought, insight, something that you would really like to share or ask about or have come to the table, there's loads of thumbs going across now, I'm assuming that that's making sense for you, then please do make sure that you message me on here. You can message me direct, and that does come to me and I do answer them. Or you can email me if you would prefer to, jules@juleswyman.com. So you can have the opportunity to be able to ask any question. And if you haven't seen them before where people have asked questions, I don't use anybody's name. So I just take the topic that you're asking to be discussed and I would discuss the topic. So I think I've waffled long enough for you, anyone who wanted to be able to type. But if I do end up finishing the session before and you're still typing away, then carry on typing and add it on to the recording and I will come back to it. So I'm trusting that because of all the thumbs that have gone across that this has made sense. You've given you the opportunity to look at 3 key ways that you can lower your stress. And my invitation for you is to now put them into practice. So I look forward to seeing you again next week. And you're welcome, Laura. Very, very welcome. And I look forward to seeing you next week. So take care. And whatever you do, be kind to yourself. Bye.